Hi everyone, it's Renee with Zalani Jane Cards. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to use a new to me set. I think it's actually pretty new. It's the Balloon Ride stamp set by Brutus Monroe. And then I also had recently grabbed some stencils from Paper Rose. I think it's one of my new favorite stencil companies. I'm telling you, everything I've gotten I love. But the stencil is Patterned Waves. So we will get there. I'm gonna call this tone on tone stenciling maybe. But I'm also doing one background and making two cards. So there's a lot to be had here. I'm using Salty Ocean, Blueprint Sketch, and Wilted Violet to blend on, these are Distress Oxides, to blend on this piece of, I want to say it's Bristol Smooth cardstock. And we'll get into the reason that that's super important in a little bit. But I'm just blending on colors here. I did clean up here between the blues and the purple, although I'm blending them together. I didn't want them to be a muddy mess. And I'm using a Post-it note kind of stuck to my fingers so that I don't leave fingerprints. Bristol Smooth cardstock blends beautifully. You could actually blend these oxide inks on just about any paper. These blend so nice. But if you blend it on Bristol cardstock, it blends just gorgeous. It beautifully for just about any inks. But I wanted to do something a little bit specific a little bit later, and I needed to use Bristol for that. So here I'm just blending these colors, and it's pretty, right? So I cleaned up, and then I kind of let it dry a little bit, and now I'm going to place down, oh, this wasn't that stencil. What stencil is this? Oh, this is from a Colorful Life Designs. It is one of the newer stencils I got. Let's see if I can find it so I can find out what it's called. I love that they put the name on their stencils. This one is called Zentangle Dots. The one that I mentioned, the Patterned Waves, is very similar. This just happens to be nice and big, so I could use it for the entire background. Now I'm blending over my stencil with colors that are similar to but lighter than the colors that are underneath. So here I've got Salvaged Patina, probably Speckled Egg, and this is Shaded Lilac. You know colors. It's lavender. So I did that, and then look at how beautiful that is. Gives you this really kind of subtle tone on tone pattern background, and so I let that dry. And now I am going to stamp on the entire background. Images from this Brutus Monroe Balloon Ride set. Now this set is really cool and intrigues me because I don't always want to use the balloons, but it has some really cool cloud shapes in it. And it also has all of these birds, which are super fun to like finish a scene off. You ever make like the ocean scene and you got the sky and it's just gorgeous and you're like, oh, it could use just that little thing. It could be these birds. I think it is these birds. I have a single bird stamp from Victorine Originals that I used to go to all the time to add a little bit of a bird in the background. But this might be my new reach for. So after I get the background like this, the clouds and the birds all stamped, now I'm going to stamp in some of the hot air balloons. And I'm using Versa Fine Onyx Black ink for this because it stamps over the Distress Oxides really well, but also because I'm going to be using some water. So this is just a water brush. It's just got plain water in it, and what I'm doing is wetting and picking up the color. And now I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers to color in these balloons in the background. I kind of wanted them to be very similar to what's in the background. So this balloon is sitting on kind of some purple. So I'm going to go ahead and color it in with some purples. Not sure I leave all the coloring in, and I honestly need to practice with these. So tell me, what is the best images you have found to practice Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers? Let's take note here. I'm using a blender brush to blend my purple colors together. You see how it's got the purple tape on it? That's how I always just noted that that was the blender brush. And I enjoy using the blender brush or a much lighter color to blend my zigs. I'm not a huge fan of adding water to them. I feel like it distorts the color slightly, and I don't really love that. Anyway, moving on to the blue here. I'm going to go ahead and just blend out some blue, blue with a little bit of a lighter blue. These are kind of aqua colors like they are in the other parts of this background. I really wanted this to be the bluey and purple colors. And now I'm going to blend it out again with that blender brush. Make sure you make note that I'm using the blender brush, and look how nicely it's blending. The reason that I'm having you pay attention is because I'm going to show you later, big, huge mistake. I do fix it, but it is a big mistake. So here I was just adding a little bit more color. I just kind of wanted these to have a little bit of color in the background, just so that they didn't seem clear. This is going to be a sky scene, so, don't want them to be clear. So here is my coloring all done. Blues and purples, and now I'm going to stamp my images. I am stamping my images in VersaFine Onyx Black ink on Neenah cardstock. And I won't realize this until a little bit later. So I stamped them out real nice here, making sure that I had, I wanted this heart balloon on each panel, and then I wanted kind of a combination of the others amongst the other two panels. So here I get my zigs out because, I used my VersaFine Onyx Black. So of course in my head, I'm clearly on track for coloring this with zigs. So I put in my darkest color, and I'm like, this is awesome. These stamps have like all of the shading kind of noted. The artist that drew this definitely put all the shading in the right place. And then I'm going to blend it out here just a little bit with this lighter red color. And I am on board to just skim through the coloring. And I will say I'm very happy that I didn't put the dark color on all of the balloons first. I just did these two, and then I find out that I made a mistake. Now here, you see this blender pen does not have that purple tape on it because this is a brand new one. Because I didn't think that mine was working very well. So I'm like, what is going on? Why is this not blending? Here is why everybody says use Bristol smooth cardstock with your zigs, because it works the best. You seen that color barely moved at all on this Neenah cardstock? And I pointed out the ink that I used to stamp these because it's not Copic friendly. But I have no other way to color these except for, maybe restamping them to color them. And I was not about that right now. So I'm going to just be very careful. And these are my markers. So if you're gasping and holding your breath right now, because that's a VersaFine Onyx Black ink, I know, but it didn't ruin my markers. I was just very careful. I tried not to go over the actual stamped lines very much. And I'm going to color these red, a very deep, brilliant red. Now, the reason that I picked up this stamp set to begin with was it brings back some beautiful childhood memories. My family did a lot of camping when I was a kid. My dad would get his vacation time and we would travel. We have been to all sorts of places, tent camping or in a pop-up camper. We have just done a ton of traveling and camping as a kid, and we're from the Midwest, so it was, you drove everywhere. Everywhere. I have been to most of the states because we camped. But every year, several families, it was like, I don't know, I want to say it was like 4 basic last names, but it was probably like 15 families. We would all go camping during the balloon rally, and it was near Baraboo, Wisconsin. And if you're familiar with the circus, you know that that's where the Circus World Museum is, and Barnum and Bailey, and all that kind of fun stuff. So there was always fun stuff to do there. But we would go up for the balloon rally, and we would get up at super early before the sun came up to all pile in all these vehicles and go to these fields and watch them blow up these balloons. And when it's dark out still and they're using the fire that's inside to light the balloons, they would just glow. And it was amazing. And it is one of the coolest memories that I have from being a kid, is this pilgrimage basically that we did every single year to go see the balloon rally. It was so cool. So after I did all my cutting or my coloring, I used my scan and cut to cut them out. I'm still very, very new at that, so they're not perfect. And then I trimmed my panel into 2 panels, my background piece that I made. And I'm going to kind of see like how I want my colors on here. And I mean, it just reminds me of that balloon rally so much. If you've never had the opportunity to watch like hundreds of balloons be filled and launched into the air, if there is something similar in your area, go and do it at least once in your life. It is just a peaceful, beautiful, wonderful, magical thing that happens. It's the coolest. So here I trimmed off some pieces of some balloons that I'm using on the other panel. I wanted them to kind of overlap. Like I took a picture of the sky and I got partial balloons. And I had also stamped sentiments from each or on each of the panels. This one says, "You're a rainbow in a stormy sky," and I believe the other one says, "The sky is the limit." I did use all 4 sentiments, and I will show the other 2 in a minute or 2 here. These balloons are attached by a combination of foam tape and just liquid adhesive flat down onto the panel. This is nice because I built that background, so now I'm able to add some dimension by placing these balloons higher, using the foam tape. So it just adds dimension into this sky. And because I stamped the balloons on the background and kind of colored them in similar colors, they are pushed back. At least that's how I see it. And if you see all these balloons in the sky, they're not like all in a line. They're all over the place. It's just one of the most stunning things ever. And it's like silent beauty. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you have ever been to, and I'm assuming they're called balloon rallies everywhere. But if you've ever been to one, or like launching of hot air balloons, they're just very, very cool. When I was a kid from our house, we actually got to skip out on church once because a balloon crashed in the swamp nature preserve next to our house, and they had all of the emergency response vehicles there, so we didn't have to go to church that day. So I do remember that too, and that was a pretty fun memory. I was a little. But here I'm just building the second one here. You see how I had cut off the little piece of the orange one and the little piece of this larger heart balloon, and then trimmed off all the extra that hung over that panel. I mounted both panels onto some black cardstock and did a little bit of details here. I added some like Spectrum Noir sparkle pen over top of these. And what's really nice is they are Copic colored, so it didn't blend the colors, which it would have done if I had used my zigs. So I mean, what was a mistake turned out to be kind of beneficial toward the end. And I also think that the depth in the red balloons, I think I got more depth in the red balloons because of the zig being underneath the Copic marker. I don't know, maybe not. I did add a little bit of sparkle to these fun clouds, and boy are they fun shapes. I know we always see like the super puffy clouds, but these ones are puffy but kind of long, so they're a really nice shape to add to your stash of cloud stamps. And now I'm going to add a little bit of white gel pen detail to my balloons. But I'm really curious, do you guys have balloon rallies by you? Are hot air balloons common? Where I live, there's a lot of farming, a lot of flat land, and I can see why they're very common here. We don't see them every day, but we see them pretty often. I would say several times a year you see clusters of balloons up in the sky, and it is really kind of cool. I did add a little bit of white gel pen detail to the sentiments. The way these larger sentiment the way this font is, there's like a little openings. You could add some color. I just decided to add just a little bit of white. I thought it would be, I don't know, kind of fun to make them stand out just a little bit more. I really wanted the focus to be on the balloons, being the bright, bold color in the sky. I just thought it was super pretty. For the inside of my cards, I'm going to go ahead and ink blend on just a little bit of blue. I didn't even re-ink this brush. This is just what was on there. And then I went ahead and lined up the balloons and realized that my cards were definitely the other orientation. So I've been doing, I don't know, I like spaced out. So then I fixed that, and I'm going to stamp those on the inside just over that little bit of blue to kind of indicate that they're up in the sky. Or maybe they're in the water. I don't know. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere my panels to my card bases. These are top folding A2 size card bases. I love my top folding card bases. It's a preference. I mean, you do you, but I like the top folds. I know it's a little bit different. Actually, I think a lot of people do it now, but it is my preference. Sometimes I'll make a side fold card, but really not so often. So I just used some liquid adhesive so I could make sure that was on there straight. And this one here was just a little bit smaller than my card base, so I did trim that down. First, I trimmed down the front panel, then folded my card base shut and trimmed it off the rest of the way. So if you're ever wondering how that is done, there you go. I decided to stamp those other sentiments on the insides of my card. So I just lined up each of my card bases inside my stamp platform here. And one of them is going to say good luck. The other one is going to say smile. And then I did add just a little bit more blue up in that top corner there just to kind of finish off the inside. So those are my cards, making 2 cards from one background. I did that technique with the tone-on-tone stenciling. I also showed you how to not stamp your images on Neenah if you want to use your zigs, and taught you how to be very careful with your VersaFine Onyx Black ink and your Copics. Thank you for stopping by. As I always say, give cards generously. Bye!